Hello and welcome back to the show. This is a bit of a bonus episode, certainly something a little bit different, and I'll tell you kind of the whys and the whats here in just a second. But first, just let me lay the groundwork a little bit. Last year, we had our friend Mark England on the show. Well, actually, I should say we've had him on the show a whole bunch. We had him on relatively recently, but specifically a year ago, we had him on the show. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. First, though, Mark is the co-founder and head coach of a company called Enlifted, which trains and certifies mindset coaches. And the conversation we had with him a year ago ended up being one of those episodes that I've thought about long after we recorded it. So the central idea was this. The reason we had him on the show that particular week is he was making the argument that the most common pre-workout in the fitness industry, the thing that gets more people in the gym than nearly anything else, it's not a supplement. It's fear. It's specifically the fear of not being good enough. And Mark introduced a term to us. It's a clinical term, but I've repeated it to myself often, which is atelophobia, which is the fear of not being good enough. And his point in that conversation was that when people fuel their workouts, or really any part of their lives, from that place, from that fear, from the need to prove something to somebody, from the desire to punish themselves into somehow magically becoming a better version of themselves, it just doesn't work. Not really, not in the long term. So the workout becomes ultimately a punishment, and we can only sustain ourselves with the fuel of punishment, with the fuel of fear for so long. Now, the conversation, of course, went in a bunch of different directions. So if you haven't listened to it, I definitely recommend you go back and do so. The title of the episode, which I think were released in April of 25, was Why Your Motivation to Get Fit Might Be Your Biggest Obstacle. So definitely go check that out if you want to hear more than just what I'm about to play you. But at some point in that conversation, I asked Mark about how to take this understanding, this idea of atelophobia, and this idea that it is often handed to us from our parents, from the people around us, from the adults around us when we are kids. So I said, okay, if this thing gets passed down, if in some ways we sort of inherit it, as a parent, how do we not hand that to our kids? Or what can we do to lessen the likelihood that our kids grow up with the same sense of atelophobia and the same downstream effects of that perhaps we did? And so what he said next, his answer to that question was what I wanted to share with you today. So this is a clip from that episode, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you why I've been thinking about this lately and why I wanted to bubble it up now. Just to maybe close the loop of where atelophobia comes from, both Ben and I are parents. How do you recommend, if it is something that is inadvertently handed down from generation to generation, how do we, as best we can, break the cycle so that it's not something that we then hand on to our kids, even if it is something that we struggle with ourselves? What can we look out for and maybe put in place whatever might be the natural inclination?
Great question. Two answers. We'll go with a general practice first. So for whatever reason, ages 5 to 10, and we get asked this a lot, hey, this is awesome and it's good for me, and I also want to share this with my kids. Ages 5 to 10, a wins journal. Okay, a wins journal, and it's super easy. Get a piece of paper and write in a full sentence. Again, half sentences, again, I don't make the rules. Half sentences and bullet points don't summon the magic. It's not enough words. It's not enough detail. One sentence on one page per day of something that your child did well. And then they write it and they read it, and that's it. It takes probably a minute, and within not a long amount of time, a short amount of time, it usually turns into a ceremony of sorts. We just wrapped up dinner and it's time to go wash up for bed. Let's get our wins. Or maybe you do it at the breakfast table. They'll start enforcing it. And so what that does is it trains them to see themselves as good enough. So they're showing themselves and you. They're sharing a win with them, with themselves and yourself. And it gets them to be able to give themselves some credit. That was one of the biggest parts of the workshops that we were doing this summer, is that most people have a third degree black belt in the art of deflecting, minimizing, dismissing a compliment coming from someone else to themselves. It's on a whole other level when I have to give myself credit for something that I've done. Okay? No, you need a tool to do that. It's a pen and a piece of paper and how to get the breath in there. You need a shoehorn and a crowbar and a acetylene torch. Because most people, they're just hell bent on not giving themselves some credit. Most people, and that goes back to the story, the conversation about mindset. Most people think mindset is goal setting and shit talking yourself all the way through it till you get it done. There's so much more than that. There's so much more than that, and you can share that with your kids, and it will raise their psychological and emotional immunity, which I find interesting to think about. You know, if I get sick once a month, something's up with my immunity. If I go out and get on social media and every time I see a post that I don't like, I'm all riled up and I can't talk myself down for a day or two, that's a telltale sign of a low psychological and emotional immunity. And most people's, like, kids, it's going down, like in the wrong direction. There's that, and then the good old-fashioned soft talk challenge.
Yep.
Here's this again. Here's this again. So you take these words, everybody, and I'm happy to read them off.
Yeah,
Ben can, or Patrick.
Yeah, no,
and
go for it, Mark.
Okay, cool. And these words are very, 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 probably, there's the joke, in your language, in your spouse's language. And remember, language is an inheritance. Think about that. That's wild. And if you want to gift your children a better storytelling device, because that's what language is, then make some seemingly small improvements in your language, and they're going to pick up on that in some form or fashion, especially if you make it if you gamify it, as in put these words on the fridge and leave them there, they'll start correcting you. And so once again, Alan Watts, you got your kids thinking about their thinking. You got their kids thinking about the words they're using. They're not going to learn that in English class, in public school, when it comes to their mindset, the story that I'm telling themselves. Most people have no way to put the fire out in their head before they, share it with everybody else. I've call me old-fashioned. I think it's very cool when someone can do that. What do you mean? I need them to. And because projection keywords, no, wait a minute, I don't need them to. I need me to. Ooh, yeah, that tastes a little bit different. And the breath unlocks, and you look up, and wow, there's something else. Things are looking up, and I just saved myself an argument with someone else that I was about to suck into it because I need them to respect me more. No, dude, you need to respect yourself more, and you need to respect your time more. They're not wasting your time. You're wasting your time waiting for them to change. And I've saved myself a lot of time being able to do that. That's a skill. That's a skill. And so the words, everybody, if you want to play along, I'm going to read these out. To do it well, take a clean sheet of paper, write these words 5 times larger than you would normally write them. It's going to get the attention of your reticular activating system. There's another big word. And then put it up on your fridge and leave it there for 90 days. Okay, 90 days you'll have come in contact with it on the daily, and it'll be here's a good word. Whether it's your gym or your family, it'll be in the culture. So Peter Drucker said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And if you want to improve the culture of something, in my opinion, language is as important as environment. How the environment is set up. What language is promoted in an environment? What language is looked down upon? I was thinking about this morning, Ben, from your book. I can't remember what athlete it was, but someone had a tantrum about something, and they went outside and you walked up to them and you said, we don't do that here. That's checking the culture. And when you give people a way to check their own input into a culture, that's a big deal. So I go on rants and tangents professionally, everybody, forgive me. Here are the words. Probably, perhaps, feels like, guess, maybe, could, might, possibly, sort of, kind of, potentially, hopefully, try, one day, should, almost like. One day, I'm going to go take a class at CrossFit New England. How many of those people come in the door? Not many. Versus today, I'm going to take a class at CrossFit New England. You know, maybe I should get some books on personal development versus I'm getting books on personal development. And when you've got a way to work on the story that you're telling yourself, okay, well, you've got a way to work on it. Most people don't know what it is. Go ask 5 people. Everybody listen to the show. Here's a fun exercise. Go ask 5 people, and here's how they say it. Go ask 5 people that are really big on mindset. Hey, what's mindset? You're going to get a bunch of different answers. And a lot of them aren't practical. Key root word of practical, practice. How do I practice working on it? Well, you need to know what it is and then what it's made of. So, yeah, those are my 2 answers on how to gift your children a better language, is to make some improvements on yours, okay, and bring it into the family, gamify it. Oh, you just said should, and then get them to write a wins journal.
All right, so a wins journal, 1 sentence every day. Write it down, read it back, and over time, over a long enough time horizon, you train yourself or you get your kid to see themselves and yourselves as good enough. And so when I heard that, something clicked for me, because the thing that Mark is describing, the simple, sort of almost laughably small practice, it's not just like a little hack, it's a reframe. It's taking the question of what went wrong today and replacing it with what went right today. And how rare do we actually ask that latter question, and how often are we living inside of that first question? And as I thought about it, and as I experimented with it myself, I thought, oh, there's something here. Specifically, what I thought was there's a book for kids in this. And so I wrote one. It's called What's a Win I Won Today? I've mentioned it once or twice here on the show already. And I wanted to read it to you now. It's a kid's book. It's got rhymes, so you might like it. It's meant to be read out loud. I don't think you have to be a kid to find it useful. At least I hope not. But I did have a listener reach out, and she reminded me that I had actually done a reading of my first kid's book called The ABCs of Being Happy and Healthy, and I put it out here on Chasing Excellence. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I kind of forgot about that. Let me do that again. And then I thought, well, since this book came quite literally out of a conversation of Chasing Excellence, I wanted to kind of tie some things together for you as a listener of Chasing Excellence, give you a sense of what the book is, and of course, hopefully inspire you to go out and get the book, read it to your kid, have this conversation with your kid. So, but first, I'm going to do a reading of What's a Win I Won Today. Share it with your kids if you'd like, but mostly use it, hopefully, to inspire you to get the book, read it to your own kids. Okay, here it is. It's called What's a Win I Won Today. Before this day is said and done, before there is more moon than sun, be sure to find and then to say the biggest win you won today. Just grab an empty sheet of paper, or you might forget it later. How you made somebody laugh until they almost cried, or of the moment that you felt yourself undoubtedly alive. Write it in a sentence, tell it true and clear. Give yourself some credit while the memory is here. You see, it's easy to remember everything that you got wrong, all the trip-ups or the slip-ups or the stumbling along. It's so easy to forget that even though you mess things up, and even when you miss the pitch, or your laces trip you up, or you fall into a ditch, or your joke makes no one laugh, or you're picked dead last again, or someone didn't like your shoes or shirt, or didn't want to be your friend. It's important to remember that it's not the only thing that happened in your day that's worth remembering. Despite some of the not so good, perhaps you also passed the test, or you caught the bus in time, or you cleaned your bedroom mess, or you chose to be the kind of kid who chooses to be kind, or you made your mama smile, or you ran so fast you turned into the wind for just a while. Perhaps you said one honest thing even though it scared you some, or you ate all of your vegetables without you whining none. Perhaps you lifted up a friend who wasn't feeling super great and helped them feel a little better with the things you had to say. Don't worry about the other stuff, just let them come and let them go. Right now we're focused on the win you won, so grab your notebook, let it flow. Take a moment, celebrate how curious or calm you were, how brave or strong or kind of great, how high you climbed or that you learned to multiply or conjugate. Before this day is said and done, before there is more moon than sun, be sure to find and then to say the biggest win you won today. Just grab an empty sheet of paper, or you might forget it later. Sit down and write about the way you won the win you won today. Read it out now, nice and slow. Take a breath now, nice and low. Do this every single day and believe that you are worth the praise. Trust it's true just as you say and see the proof there on the page. That's it. That's the book. I want to say one quick thing about why I wrote this and why I wrote the first book, The ABCs of Being Happy and Healthy. And the reason I keep coming back to this format in particular has nothing to do with illusions of me becoming a kid's book author, though that's a cool idea too. It's this. Some of the most important conversations I want to have with my boys about what it means to take care of yourself, about what health actually is, about how to talk to yourself when things are hard. These conversations are genuinely difficult to start. If you just walk up to your kid and say something like, I don't know, let's talk about the fact that you might be carrying around a fear of not being good enough. I don't know if your kids are different than mine, but you're going to get a blank stare and then they're going to want to go back to playing Rubik's Cubes. But if you sit down together and you read a book like this, suddenly you're kind of in it together. The book hopefully opens a door. It introduces a vocabulary. It gives you both something to point at and say, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? And more importantly, what's a win you won today? And I've had these conversations with my kids and I never regret it. And that is ultimately what I'm trying to do and build with these books. Not just something to read, but something to start a conversation through, an excuse to talk about the things that actually matter. So if you've got a kid in your life, whether it's a son, a daughter, a student, a niece, a nephew, a neighbor, whomever, and you want to weigh into this idea that Mark was talking about, that the story that you tell yourself about yourself matters and that it starts young and it starts with small habits. I hope genuinely that this helps. You can find What's a Win I Won Today on Amazon. I'll put it in the show notes. Big thanks to Mark for all the conversations that he's had here on the show, for this spark of an idea in particular. Again, check out enlifted.me for more about what Mark does there at Enlifted. And if you're a coach, definitely check that out. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, of course, next week. But until then, I would love you to spend some time tonight writing down a win. And I would love it even more if you helped your kid do the same.